Hi, I'm delighted to be here with some other raw food experts. Background, your first background, Michelin chef at top restaurant, cooking for them for celebrities and so on, and then you had a major life change. You travelled around India, you became interested in food and what's really going into our bodies. You're always interested in that, but tell us what happened in that journey, because you're working at a high-end level. What happened, and then you discovered what you're doing now, which is raw food. What happened in your journey?
Okay, well, what happened in my journey was I was very lucky to be working with some of the best chefs, with some of the best produce. Thing is, by the time I got to a particular age, I was burnt out from my career. And the thing is, I was kind of losing my interest in and around food.
Right.
I was using organics a lot towards the end. But the thing was, I just felt that there had to be something more, that there had to be something different. There had to be a different approach.
Right. And you were personally burned out, and we were talking a little bit before about the whole environment in which lots of our food is actually prepared, crazy kitchens, busy, swearing and all the rest of it. That in itself isn't necessarily healthy. It's clearly not healthy for lots of people who work in those environments. You moved away from that. You went off to India, presumably to find yourself, but you also seem to find something else in terms of food. So what was it that you discovered?
I discovered a couple of different approaches to eating food or nutrition. One was macrobiotics.
And for those people who don't know about that, what's that in a nutshell?
Macrobiotics was something that was founded or created by a man called Michikushi in Japan, and he spoke of the relationship between humans and their food. So it's about balancing the foods so that you can receive an optimum state of health through adding certain foods and taking certain foods out. Primarily focusing on grains and seaweeds and other products in the diet. But I think what struck me the most was that there was actually a strong relationship around mindfulness and eating, and your thoughts and what you're putting into your mouth, how you're digesting the food, and treating food and what you're eating more meditatively. Because if you eat food in a calm, relaxed state, your body will receive it in a calm, relaxed state. If you're trying to eat and you're on the telephone and you're on the computer and you're having a conversation, or you're stressed out and angry, the food is going to have a different relationship with your body, other than when you're sitting there in gratitude and enjoying loving it.
Right, and then it makes us think how many of us are eating in necessarily that kind of way. So you had that quite profound experience, and clearly as somebody who's very experienced around food, what happened in between? Because we know that now you run a raw food business, you run workshops, you work with people individually, I've got a website with all sorts of information around this kind of stuff. What happened, and what did you decide to do when you left India? What happened in between, and what did you then set up?
Okay, what happened is that I did a raw food detox retreat whilst I was in Thailand before going to Australia. And then whilst I was in Australia, I started preparing a lot of these raw living foods for my friends. And they were calling me the next day and they were saying, my God, what did you put in the food? I feel amazing, I feel fantastic. And it was only then, when they were sharing with their friends, I was getting more people coming and asking to eat some of the foods that I was preparing.
Right, and you were telling us, you were telling me before that one of the core things about raw food is where it's heated. It's not heated above 42 degrees. Tell us a little bit about that, and what is it that happens above that.
Okay, well.
That's all right. That's all right. You can tell it's live telly. People will be coming in front and behind the camera.
Okay, so basically what happens is once you take food over 42 degrees, you kill the benefits of the food.
Right.
So you lose the enzymes, you lose the minerals, you lose the vitamins.
And that's kind of scary, because you'd think that most of us, when we're at home in our kitchens, there's a lot of boiling stuff going on. We know that's above 42 degrees. There's a lot of heat. So that means that most of the stuff that we're preparing, potentially, we're losing all that goodness from it. Is that the case?
That's the case. And the crazy thing is you're actually cooking those nutrients out, and then you're going and purchasing the vitamins to put back in, when you already have that in the produce already. There was a lady called Anne Wigmore, very famous, who founded the Hippocrates Institute in Florida, and she said live food, live body, and that's the experience you'll have, is that when you're putting these vibrant foods into your body, you'll start feeling the vibrancy.
Well, and what's interesting about that, when we were just in a raw food restaurant now, you kindly picked a menu, and I was very some people would be very pleased that you picked a pizza in a burger, but not as we know it, and to know that you can do all sorts of different foods that you in this particular kind of a way. Tell us a little bit about what because many of us might think, okay, I'm just going to be eating grains and I'm going to be just eating fruit and salad. Can you tell us a little bit about what somebody might be eating for eating raw foods potentially? What's the range?
Sure. I mean, initially when people are coming into the raw foods, they're thinking it's salad and lettuce leaves and pieces of fruit, and it's not. It's actually more exciting and inspiring using the raw living food produce for me than it was using conventional.
Wow.
Because you can have cookies, you can have ice creams, you can have chocolates, cakes, breads, pizzas and pastas. But they're all made with raw living ingredients, and they're all very good for you, and they're all very nutritious, and they will benefit you on every level.
And so the people who come to you now, so now if we fast forward to where we are now, you work with all sorts of people, individuals, you run workshops, there's information on your website and so on. What kind of people come to you? Presumably, in this day and age, many people who are having to radically look at their diets because they've been eating such bad processed stuff, all sorts of stuff that's bit by bit, the body's wearing down. Is that very commonly the case?
Very commonly, and people are stressed out. The common thing is adrenal fatigue at the moment because people are exhausted and their physical bodies are exhausted because of the foods that we're putting inside. If we're taking in things like caffeine and sugar and highly processed foods, we're going to end up very quickly very depleted of the fuel which we need to survive on a very high level. So by putting in really good quality, organic, living, raw foods, you will start to reverse some of the symptoms that you would have. So, fatigue, exhaustion, two primary things that are happening.
And what about these other things that you were talking before about, sometimes with people particularly when they're eating very unhealthy diets, the habits, you were talking about some of the habits, like if you eat lots of this, you've been eating lots. How do you, when you're working with people, how do you begin to take them on that journey whereby you're replacing things that aren't really good for them for introducing things that are far more healthy? It might even be like what we did there, where it's a pizza, but it's actually a decent, healthy pizza, and it's a burger, but it's a really. But what typically might you do with somebody who's been eating a lot of fast food, a lot of processed food, and where their diet needs to presumably radically change? What's a typical journey there?
Well, sure. I mean, what would happen is, as an example, if it's sugar, if you're consuming a lot of sugar, then what happens is you're going to have sugar, which is a habit, that you've gone for that piece of chocolate. But what will happen is you'll eat the chocolate or you'll have the ice cream, and then afterwards you're going to feel a slump in your energy levels. So if you replace that with raw ice creams or raw chocolates, you're not going to have that slump afterwards. You're still going to have your energy to go and do the things that you want to do, but you will go through some sort of emotional detox.
Right. So this is again really extraordinary. I think that I can see why you're really excited about it, because it means that actually it's not necessarily you're talking about taking away lots of stuff. I mean, you were making this point earlier, but actually it's about introducing just stuff that's actually really good. So it's not about deprivation, it's actually about bringing in stuff that's actually really good and healthy, and many of the same things, but just prepared in a mindful and healthy way.
Yeah, I mean, primarily it's firstly eating things mindful.
Yeah.
That's that's number one.
Yeah.
And it's not about taking things out, it's about putting things in. And then when you put the good things in, then you'll start to recognise the benefits of having that in your system, and the effect of that in your system, and the effect of having, it's like taking a raw chocolate bar and conventional chocolate bar. One that's been mass produced with lots of sugar, lots of dairy, compared to one which has been lovingly produced, like the one that's produced here in some of the chocolates they produce here in Wild Food Cafe. It's it's chocolate which hasn't been heated, but over 1,200 beneficial substances in it. When you have that, your body will benefit. Of course, if you have anything in excess, it's not going to be good. It's all about balance. But with raw living foods, you will start to realise and recognise in your own system your body's reactions to it.
Well, this is really interesting, and just hearing you speak, it means that those shifts aren't as radical as somebody might think. It just requires that mindfulness and that attention and so on. For people who, before we close, are wanting to find out more, or they're wanting to just find you and find raw food, what's the website where people can find you?
Okay, the website is rawlovelife.com.
Great.
And you'll find all the information, recipes, films, and information about all the retreats and workshops, recipes, exciting stuff.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to it. And thank you very much for your time and for the wonderful experience of raw food today. And I think that, I think I'm going to add some even more raw food into my diet. And it's looking good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.